Ihr hört einen Podcast vom Future of Festivals, das Branchentreffen für alle VeranstalterInnen, Dienstleistende, EntscheiderInnen und Auszubildenden aus dem Festivalbereich. Die nächste Ausgabe findet von Donnerstag, den 27. bis Freitag, den 28. November 2025 in der Station Berlin statt. Die folgende Aufzeichnung ist aus dem Jahre 2024 von dem Diskussionspanel mit dem Namen
Innovation und Nachhaltigkeit in der Festival Logistik.
Viel Spaß beim Zuhören. Mehr Informationen und Tickets findest du unter www.futureoffestivals.com.
The next talk is in English. It's about innovation and sustainability in festival logistics. It's going to be about trucking. It's going to be about the consequences of Brexit, how the route might work, the chains, and so on. If I said something wrong, I'll be corrected in a second. And with that, I want to welcome Brigitte Kosmika. Big applause for you. You've been in the event scene for 25 years. You do project management for events and you do production and marketing. The stage is yours. Have fun. Have fun.
Oh, great. Yeah, welcome to our panel of innovation and sustainability in festival logistics. I would like to introduce you, that our panelists introduce themselves shortly to you so you know who's joining the panel.
Okay,
Laura.
shall I start?
Your introduction.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's so loud in the background, so it's kind of difficult to stay on track. So my name is Laura. I'm the co-founder of Crowd Impact. We build an app to track the impact of audience travel and how to reduce the emissions of audience travel. And yeah, so that's going to be my focus for today.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Balázs. I'm from Hungary. I'm working for Visual Europe. It's a production company. We work on festivals, large-scale concerts, doing AV and drones.
Hi, my name is Louise. I'm from the Netherlands. Oh, I'm talking a bit loud. We do trucking and logistics in Europe and beyond.
So thank you. When we're talking about digitalization and innovation in the trucking, maybe, Louise, this is a question for you. There are a few or many new techniques like real-time tracking. How does it influence the logistic in the festival scene?
Yeah, so all our vehicles, even trailers these days, have the GPS tracking. So back in the day, the client had to call like, oh, where's my truck? But now most of our clients can see where it is, and especially with festivals where you have so many suppliers coming in and out, it's very easy for the tour manager to say, hey, my truck is about 1.5 hours from the festival, and they tell to security. So I think this is helping with the coordination of the coming and going. And a very big difference for our drivers is instead of like the classic mirrors, you have this new camera mirrors. And that is also a big change for them, where they have to work daily. And because of the aerodynamica, the diesel consumption is 2% less.
Okay.
But yeah, that's also a big change.
Yeah, that's very important for the sustainability. I mean, how many trucks do you have when you do a tour?
Yeah, we have now 360 trucks and around 700 trailers and 200 vans and 50 nightliners.
Okay, and when you're driving, when you're doing a tour, how many trucks are in use for a tour, for a big tour?
A big tour, but it really depends, but around 20, 30 for production, and then you also have 20 trucks or even more if they have two type of sets of stage.
Okay.
So some artists, they have 2 stages, and sometimes it's 23 per stage.
So then it makes sense with the less diesel consumption, because that's pretty much which you lower pretty much the diesel consumption.
Yeah.
Okay. Does it reduce the costs, or does it higher is it more effective with the technologies coming up?
Well, I mean, we're still implementing a lot of the new softwares now, but we have our own planning tool, but it's not talking with AI yet. So our planners really have to do the work.
Okay.
But who knows, in 10 years, it can look completely different.
So at the moment, your staff is doing the routing of the trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Balázs, from the production side, what do you think about the technologies? Does it support you? Is it good for you?
Yeah, I think it's more and more important. First of all, being green, and then also being cost effective, which is sometimes couldn't match.
Yeah.
I think what I see, and probably is on the cost side, what bigger tours do, and you can see more and more, they don't do one-night gigs in one city, and then they travel, I don't know, 100 kilometers to the next, and then the next. They do multiple shows in one area, and let the audience travel to them, which is a cost on their side. It's reduced, but also on the audience side, it's going higher up because more people have to travel way more. So I think the whole industry is trying to figure it out in all aspects, what they want to do with this green way.
Yeah.
How can they accept it? How can they manage it, and how can they use it? Because I always say, like, when you bring like a small town amount of people in one place, it's really hard to make it green. They need electricity. They need like huge stages. You see the stages bigger and bigger. We have amazing LED lights, and 10 years ago everybody said it's like, oh, it's so good. We don't need that much power, and it's what's happened.
Yeah.
And on every stage we have 600 fixtures, not 200 as before, because, oh, we have more power, so we can put up more lights. There's some events and some organizers who pay attention for it. Some of them don't. It really depends. And then I don't see one straight line where the industry goes yet.
Yeah.
If I may add what you're saying, like, we're also, as an industry, fighting for people to come to your festival. So it needs to be a wow experience. So if you're saying, oh, we're going green and we don't have a big stage and we don't have an amazing screen, then people will be like, I'm in a dirty field full of mud. What am I doing? So that is sort of the balance we need to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We will talk about the audience later with Laura. Concerning e-trucks or hydrogen, what is your opinion? Is it it's just in the beginning, but is it a way to go?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. We're doing our first electric theater tour now in the Netherlands. But as you know, the Netherlands is a very small country, so the distances are more feasible, but we're very close cooperation. Well, the client is, have sustainability number one, but we need to charge at the venues. And even though they ask permission from all the venues, now this week we also had two venues that said, no, we don't want your truck charging here, you're in a way, it's, I don't want you to take our electricity. So it's very early to say what way we're going with either hydrogen or electric. I think we're sort of in the gray zone where the technologies are very new. And in events, the deadlines are very harsh. You have to be there on time. So there's very little space for trial and error. And yeah, with electric, the problem is, and hydrogen, the infrastructure. Yeah. Where can you charge? 90% of the electric trucks in the Netherlands, they're charged at night at their home depot. But our trucks travel through whole of Europe for going from the next show to the next to the next. So they don't go back to the Peter Schmidt base to charge for 9 hours.
That's not possible, no.
No, so and with hydrogen, you cannot get it anywhere. Where can you fuel? So it's a bit early to say, but we're tracking it and we're open for experiments. But for now, we will see what happens.
Okay, but you keep an eye on it, and you're trying to.
Yeah, and
to
this
get there.
theater tour, it's like audited by a third party. So they're writing a report about it, which will be released in the first year, and it will be shared publicly so that we can learn from it all together. Because everyone is, it's new for everyone. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to the next topic. We're talking about Brexit. How did Brexit influence the logistics, or the truck drivers, or?
In the first beginning, of course, they were used to go with their ID card. So now we had one guy forgetting his passport. So, but on the other hand, they're now getting used to it. It's the same as going to Switzerland or another non-EU country where you need to have your paperwork done, the ATA carnet, your passport, and calculate some extra time in for the border crossing.
So the truck drivers have to wait at the borders longer than usually.
Yeah. So when you go with the ferry to Harwich, it's very quickly. They really got a good flow in there. But then you're stuck to the ferry schedule. So we have to take a lot of time the Eurotunnel, where there it's more messy, longer waiting lines. So it depends on the client's schedule. If we go by ferry, which it's good because the drivers can take also their break on the ferry. But sometimes you cannot work around the ferry schedule, and you have to go with the Eurotunnel, which is also they scan the temperatures, of course, because people climbing in. So Eurotunnel is much more time.
Okay, so you do have to do a lot of paperwork before the tour starts.
Yeah. You need to make a list of all the stuff you have in your trailer and on the ATA carnet. You need to be very precise for the ATA carnet, and the more detail you have, it's also better when they check it because they see that you took care of it.
Balázs, do you have any experience in traveling to UK?
Like right after when Brexit happened, yes. In the last 2 years, not really. I think what I can see on the production side, like going to the UK is not that a big deal. You need a permit, but you can easily get it. I think the little bigger problem when British people want to come to Europe for long tours, which exceeds the 3 months, that's hard for them. I think that's the main issue right now, but not many tour exceeds the 3 months anymore in Europe. So at the beginning, that was like everybody was frightened. It's like, Jesus, what's going to happen? Like, we can't work in the UK. British people can't work in the EU, and it's all sorted out. I haven't heard any really big issue when someone or some equipment couldn't make it to the UK or out from the UK to Europe.
Okay.
So it's getting better, and I think it's going to stay like this.
Okay.
It's especially for the small bands because it's a big extra cost for them to arrange the ATA carnet.
So the costs for transportation, for logistics are also rising.
Yeah, after the COVID, the inflation, so that was, and then this extra adds up. Yeah. Where the small bands, they don't get paid that much, so it's already for them.
Hard.
Yeah, I'm sorry, actually, you're right, because if there was a US band last year, they had like 1 gig in the UK, and they rented all the equipment, so they left, like they did a big Europe tour. They didn't bring any equipments there because they have only 1 show in London, so they rented everything over there.
Yeah.
They just flew the crew, they done the gig, and they came back to Europe and just kept
Makes
going
it easier.
kept going in
Yeah.
the show. Yeah.
And,
So
and merchandise is also difficult for, with the import and export duties and the VAT, that's very difficult.
Okay.
Because you cannot put that on the carnet. You have to,
But you can put it in the front of the truck and it's fine.
wearing 10 hoodies.
Yeah, but what could be the solution to be more sustainable and to be more effective and more green?
That's a good question. So of course we hope that technologies will advance and that we get to tour greener. But on the other hand, if you bring a show to the crowd, then the crowd doesn't have to travel. So it's a little bit of both ways. Where now, well, Laura knows, but the crowd is the most polluting. So if you say as an artist, oh, touring is polluting, I'm only going to play in London, then everyone will fly to London, and yeah.
Yeah, we actually saw that with the Adele concerts in Munich. Did anyone hear me? So we actually had this problem with the Adele concerts in Munich, where Adele was playing 10 shows in a row, just in Munich. So that meant all her international audience came to Munich and also came specifically for that event, which caused huge amounts of emission. And we actually made a calculation, like, if she would have gone on tour, it would have been 44% less travel distances from the audiences, which would have saved a lot of emissions.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like 30 trucks, it sounds like a lot, but if you calculate, she had like 800,000 visitors?
750,000,
Yeah, if you calculate the planes and the car drives to Munich, yeah.
Of course, there are always the two sides. One is the material who has to be transported, and of course the audience. Yeah.
And the routing, like probably you remember, even when we did tours with Disney on Ice, there were some tours which came to Europe, and then they started in France, and then went to Poland, and back to Holland, and then down to, I don't know, Croatia and Denmark and Italy, and that really doesn't help. And as I see the tours now, they try to do like a nice round trip in Europe, so they're not gonna travel that much. Like there's like, it could be like hundreds of thousand kilometers in a full tour. That's definitely one.
That would help a lot.
It's also probably but the newer trucks use less fuel, so that's also another one. And the third one, which is we try to do as production companies, pack less stuff, which is hard sometimes. As you mentioned, if we don't put up 600 lights, then the audience not gonna come to that show, because like I can say like 50% of the people nowadays don't go for a concert because they like the band, they want to go on a show. And there's lots of people who don't really a big fan of bands, and I'm talking about like big stadium and big festival shows. They go there because they have a huge show for their money. And then I'm talking to home a little bit. For example, like we're here with a Hungarian company who's doing like foldable containers, which is we can travel 5 containers on one truck instead of one. We can pack lots of stuff in smaller spaces. We can rent stuff locally. We can use local gear and don't really travel. Iron Maiden, I think 2 years ago, they done like half a Europe tour with every single venue with local gear. So they didn't travel the entire Europe around. So they had the audio and the light, definitely. I can't remember their video. I think the video traveled with the tour. So these stuff can help to reduce cost and reduce fuel and transportation.
So if a promoter is talking to you and wants you to drive the material or do the production, do you have the possibility of influencing them? No.
They mostly sometimes do this routing because also of ticket sales, that they create sort of exclusivity that people go to Denmark and then they play in Madrid instead of doing Netherlands, Belgium, because then people will get, oh, I can choose when I want because there's a show on Friday nearby and there's a show on Sunday nearby. So they also do that because there's a business model behind it and it's worth the extra cost of trucking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. But what you're saying, it's changing a bit, also because of the staff shortage in the industry, and mental health and well-being is getting more important. We're doing those long distances in a very short period. It's not that healthy if you do it week by week by week. So I think that is also a huge play in changing that.
And the small and medium-sized tours, then you can not force them, but tell the bands or their management, because like lots of venues, like small and medium-sized venues, closed in the past, let's say 5 years. So not that many venues. So maybe they want to go to Paris for a 2,000 capacity gig, but there's only 2 of them in Paris, and then they have to see when it's free and when it's available.
Yeah.
So that's also another issue. But this is for the small and medium-sized gig. Like the bigger gigs, that don't really, because stadiums everywhere, arenas everywhere, and they're not that busy. Like they don't have like 7 shows in a week.
Yeah. And the audience, Zora, sorry.
Okay.
So, what is your experience? How can a promoter of festivals think about the transportation of audience? What possibilities do they have to lower that footprint, that ecological footprint?
Okay, so in my experience, the first step would be to acknowledge that audience travel can make up to 80 or even more % of the overall emissions of an event. So it's really, really significant. And lots of event organizers feel a bit disempowered or unsure on how to tackle these emissions, because they're like, oh, well, you know, my audience chooses their mode of transportation and I can't really influence that. But what we have found out actually, that you can actually influence that. For example, that's not the case of the festival, but of a tour of a band, the German band An My Kantereit. We found out together with the Changency that if you communicate about sustainable travel, you can actually nudge your audience to choose more sustainable means of transportation. And you really have to give them examples like use ride shares, use ride-sharing platforms, use more public transport. So this is one thing you can do as an event organizer, to use communication as a really powerful tool. But also, of course, you can think of different measurements on how to incentivize sustainable travel. One thing you can do, if you have the data, so you really know the travel behavior of your audience, you can take very specific measures on how to influence that. And also in the next year you can validate if your measurements had been successful. To give you an example of a theater, it's also not a festival, so I'm going to the festival a little bit later. They found out that 50% of their audience was coming with the car. So what they did is they put a deposit on the ticket that people would get back when they could show that their means of transportation had been a sustainable one. Oh. And they reduced the 50% of car travel to 10%, and they found out that it was successful because they did another survey and they collected this data. So knowing your audience and validating your measurements is a really powerful tool that you can do.
And how do you collect this data?
So the way what we're doing it and the way we're recommending it is to make a one-on-one survey. So in our experience, if you send a link online or you put a QR code somewhere on your event, no one's going to take part in the survey, or not enough people to have actual valuable data. So we would recommend to really go to people, for example, when they're queuing in a line, and you ask them, how did you travel here, and which means of transportation did you use? Now that is a lot of work, especially when you want to calculate the emissions from the data that you just collected. So this is why me and my co-founder came up with a very practical tool on how to do that easier. It's a survey app that automatically calculates the emissions, and you can put in extra questions like, why did you choose this type of transportation? What do you need to choose more sustainable travel? These sort of questions can all go into the questionnaire, and makes it easier for you to gain more insights about the travel behavior of your audience, because it can be very, very different. Even if you have the same festival, and not the same festival, but you have festivals on the same location, the travel behavior can still be really different, because sometimes your target group is a very young one and they don't even have their own cars, or it's an older one, or it's a metal festival where everyone brings their own cheap beer and have less space in their cars to take other people with them. So it's really good to know your very individual data set.
Yeah, that's interesting. And is it a difference if you have a festival in a city or in somewhere in the middle of nowhere?
Yes, there's actually big differences. Also in energy supply, but I'm going to focus on mobility. Because if you have a festival in the city, it's really easy to incentivize travel with bicycles, walking. You have a very local audience sometimes. So you have a better infrastructure overall. But, and that's the big but, if you have a very international audience traveling to your city festival and you have an airport nearby, you're going to have a lot of people coming with a plane, and that's going to ruin all everything. The bicycle and walking people, basically. If you're having a festival on the countryside, you have total different challenges. The infrastructure, because sometimes it's just not there. Also, there's sometimes security concerns. You do need to have some people traveling with cars, so in case that there's a storm, they have a secure place to retreat. So I'm saying that usually if you're more in the countryside, it makes total sense to use shuttle buses, for example, which is not only a very sustainable way to get to a festival, but also a very convenient way to go on a festival. And you can make it easy for people to go to your festival if you make it convenient. But then you also need to know, where are your people coming from? Are they all coming from Leipzig? Are they all coming from Berlin? Because that's going to make your planning easier on how to make the shuttle bus routings. And one last thing that I think is a little bit underrated is really the topic of ride shares. So really to offer a platform, or to point to one specific platform where people can meet and share their ride to get to a festival. That also really, really helps. And this is completely independent from your own infrastructure, independent from the existing infrastructure. This is something that kind of works for everyone. So, yeah.
And is there also kind of, when you're collecting the data, may gamification maybe be a tool too?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Gamification?
Gamification?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the more convenient and the more fun you make it to use more sustainable travel, the more people will use it. So I really like to think of travel being already part of the event. For example, you could make a bicycle tour even to your rural festival, even if it means that people are going to spend some hours on the bicycle, for example, because you could combine it with playful elements like, what's the English word for Schnitzeljagd? I wrote it somewhere. Anyways, you can hide some things on the way that people can find to make it more fun, and they can also join that as a group. and you can offer them luggage transport, so they don't have to carry their own luggage while on the bicycle, and maybe even give them a fast lane entry to the festival ground, things like that. And I did that once. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And so that's one thing you can do. Also, like a shuttle bus ride to a festival can be a very fun thing because you're already meeting like-minded people that like the same music than you, that like have the same kind of culture than you have. And so that can be a very fun experience too.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, concerning the truck drivers, how could we make the job of a truck driver more sexy?
Well, so there is already a huge shortage in the whole of Europe of drivers, especially, so it's getting more and more expensive to get your license, which is a problem because back in the days when, for example, my father got it, it was like 10 gulden extra. And now it's like 6,000-7,000 euros in the Netherlands. So I think make it more sexy is also making it more feasible for the youth to get it, because it's a huge investment now, which is stopping people to get it too. And the lack of like good parking and other facilities on the road, especially for our people who drive international. Yes, for in the UK, for example, you need to be at the parking by 3 p.m. because otherwise, if you're too late, it's full and it's super difficult then to find one, and then you're over your allowed hours, and then you can get a fine for that, or you have to compensate. So I think the facilities and make it easier easy. It's of course safety is important too, but they make it very difficult now, and there's like this line about.
So there's been a huge change in the job description or in the job itself.
Yeah, and it is pretty stressful, especially in events, because the deadlines are so hard. But you have strikes, traffic jams. In Germany, you have a lot of road work, so it's not always that easy. And especially with the technologies going so fast, with like the new tacho, they have to learn how that works, and we ask a lot.
When we are talking about staff, Balázs, how do you handle it? Do you book regional staff, or do you take your technicians with you?
It depends. Our company, like we have, if I'm right, like 85 technicians employed, so they're working for us only in audio, video, and lights, and then we use freelancers. We use subcontractor companies, so depends the gig. We always try to work with our own people first, and then mainly if like a summer season, like crazy everywhere. So we definitely work with outsiders. Harder and harder to find new people. I think that's one point what you mentioned, like getting all the license. Like the life is getting more expensive. Hello promoters, if anybody here, just saying. And then the younger generation, and then we have to understand, like they're not thinking about the entertainment business anymore like we did. Like I started in '92, that was rock and roll. We didn't care how many hours we worked. We didn't care like in the mud up to knees. The kids, I'm sorry, I'm 50, so 18 years old are kids for me. So the kids nowadays, they want to work like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. They want to spend time with their friends at the weekend. They want to go for our family birthdays. They want to be at home when they like have their newborn kid. A lot of us in my age, we miss this, and we have to understand. And then we have to think this way. Otherwise, we're not going to get any new technicians or any new drivers or caterers or security guys or anybody who works in this industry. Hard to find the way, because still our job is not a 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
So
And I think
that's the most difficult. And money is not everything. So
Yeah.
like you can pay someone more and more. like always, if you give someone a raise, it's good for 2-3 months, and then they start to live on that level, so they need more and more.
And I think it's hard to find local crew for you, because you do have
Absolutely, yeah.
you do have a technical product, and everybody needs to know what he's doing. And as we have a lack of professionals in all the industries, we do have in the event industry too.
Like local stagehands, I think somehow they disappeared during COVID. So like there's no stagehands. They're guys who show up in the morning, and they know how to open a crate. But stagehands, as it was before, so who can, I don't know, run a cable on a beam, just explaining to them once, they disappeared. I'm sorry if someone's here who can still do it. I really appreciate it, but not many. And I know in Hungary, in Eastern Europe, that's for sure my experience. But I also know in Germany, there's a big, huge trouble. There's no stagehands. France, in the UK, and I can say one thing: like you have to appreciate your stagehands, and then you have to give them coffee, and you have to give them donuts, and you have to give them smoke break time, and you have to pay them well. Otherwise, they're not gonna come to work for us. And I think that's the only thing we can do. And then, oh yeah, absolutely. You have to give them stickies so they can come and see the show. Don't send them home at the end of load-in and ask them to come back to load-out, because they have to be proud what they've done. It's just a good advice. I think that's the only way we can get the stagehands, and then from stagehands we can get technicians later on. It's still hard to do. So it's really easy to say this, but it's hard to do, and it's hard to find the right person.
Yeah.
Make them feel part of it. It's
Absolutely,
also
yeah.
for our drivers. They're away from home a long time, but sometimes they play in their home city, and then it's great if they can invite their wife and kids to come see the show and spend the night with them. And I think these differences make the difference.
And when you're traveling with your own stuff, how do you organize the transportation? Do you have nightliners or?
We with our company, we don't really do tours. We do big gigs around Europe. We have 2 bands. When we have we do tours, both of them Hungarian acts. It's like arena-sized shows. Usually we stay in hotels, so we don't do nightliners. There's not back-to-back shows really. It always has like 1 or 2 days between, so we can go stay in hotels.
But you do have small vans or?
Like depends. Sometimes with a car, like if it's just neighboring, like for example Slovakia from Budapest is like less than 1 hour drive, so they're gonna stay at home.
Yeah.
If we go, for example, to Poland or Germany, then depends the distance.
And the number of
Let's say like under 400 kilometers is still okay to go on a bus or even a car.
Yeah.
If it's over that, then we try to take a flight and then stay in hotels. It's important, as I said, like you can jump in a minibus with, I don't know, 6 people and half a band equipment anymore. It just doesn't work.
Okay. So, what can, let's say, does it make sense to sensibilize the promoters and the festival organizers to think about all those topics we were talking about? How can we get the message to them as a trucking company or as a producing company or by showing the emissions?
I think data is of course very strong. So all the data you're collecting, that's super visible. It's super touchable. So you cannot really get around it. But I also think sometimes it's a matter of budget. So especially with festivals, they spend first booking all the artists, and then what do we have left for? And then we need to do sort of the rest. And insurance went up a lot too. So we had the inflation. So I understand that it's difficult to spend more on other things.
Yeah, I think what's really important is to talk about success stories that inspire people, especially like in that field of audience travel where, like I said in the beginning, people feel disempowered or they don't know where to start or what to do. And I think success stories really help to give you examples, even if it's not applicable to your own event one-on-one, but just to show that there are ways that you can influence your audience is really positive. And I think that's one way to reach festivals.
I think the only way I can show promoters or festival organizers these, if you show them or tell them a cost-effective way. They don't really care anything else. Like they only see that Excel sheet, the bottom right corner, what's there. And then you can be, or no, maybe one more, if they can use some really good marketing campaign about being green.
Yeah.
That's the two-way. But as I mentioned at the beginning, and then you also said, like when like a Budapest, Vienna, Prague triangle, like usually bands do one concert in these three cities, and the promoter don't really care if they do a show in Budapest and an audience traveling from Prague, traveling from Vienna, traveling from Croatia, even from Romania, because that's not their cost. And they don't care how many people flying there with planes, how many people drives there by their own. They only see the tour cost is getting lower if they do one show in three shows in one city, instead of building the stage in all three cities, getting the local crew, all three cities, the transportation, because that's their own cost. Coldplay is the best example for this one, and we had this little conversation about it. That was the biggest marketing thing ever. The entire world thinks like Coldplay actually not used energy. They made energy during that tour because how they marketing word, and it's part of it is true. But if someone really see the numbers, really see behind it, it's not exactly what came out in the news. So we have to give them good marketing options or cost-effective ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's the same like when a band is getting booked, like no one will pay them extra because they are driving the tour or their festival moves on HVO diesel. It is then a cost for the band. So bands like, oh, why should I spend extra money on green driving when it costs me extra money? So you have this cycle as well.
So, is it the situation is like even if you try to find new technologies and new ways of logistic for either the audience or the material or the stuff, you are kind of forced to follow the promoter or the festival organizer.
Well, we had a Dutch band and they hired an electric crew van for their festival tour. And then in the end of the season they returned the van and they said, well, next year I will not rent an electric van again. So we were a bit like, oh, well, sorry, what's wrong? And then they said, yeah, there's no point because we have to charge on the diesel generator.
Yeah.
So we prefer to rent a normal van, and where we can, we will fuel HVO. So that is,
And more or less you're right. Like, I'm not saying we being forced, but you can see good options as well. For example, lots of festivals doing if the airport nearby or train station nearby, and then the festival rents electric buses to bring the people there, so they're not gonna use their cars. So, like in small steps, we're getting there with some promoters, some organizers who really care about it. They try to do it. But it's a long time, so it's gonna be another 10, 20 years until we get there where we should be now.
yeah.
and a lot of communication.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, like last January, we charged our nightliner on a hydrogen generator. So if that technique is coming up, that's already one step forward.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk to the promoters and the festival organizers. I think events like the Future of Festival is a perfect playground for topics like that. And as you said, success stories may be the way to get them closer to the topic. I would like to know if somebody in the audience has questions to our panelists. Do you have any questions on it? We have 5 minutes for Q&A. 15. We have 15 minutes Q&A.
And let's sing everybody together.
No.
No
Oh,
questions?
someone in the back there.
Here.
2 people in the back even.
It's always hard to start.
Hi, I've got this question for Laura because she's haven't said that much, I guess. What do you think that? Well, you got this app where you can measure the all the transportation ways and so on of the visitors. Well, how is the future of your app? Are the festivals coming to you and want this app, or do you really have to make marketing for this?
Yeah, of course. Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course, we do have to do some marketing so people know that it exists. But like in our own network, so many people came to us and wanted to use our app, and we were very thankful to have festivals on board very early as the most earliest users. Good Life was using our app as one of our first clients, for example, and gave us a lot of feedback, and that was very important for us. In the future, the plan with our app is, so the way it works now, you collect the data and it gives you the results, and then you can go to our website and read through my awesome blog post with so many ideas on what you can do to influence or to incentivize sustainable travel. But what we want to do in the future is to take your own collected data and give you very individualized ideas and propositions on what you can do for your own festival based on the data that you collected and what potential it has to save emissions. So you can also kind of prioritize which measurements you're gonna try out first to reduce those emissions. So we want our app to, become even smarter and smarter with the years, of course.
Hi, my name is Claudia and I'm working in the merchandise industry, and I just want... Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My name is Claudia and I'm working in the merchandise industry, and I've actually, I don't know, the question might be for all of you, because we sometimes struggle to find artists that are willing to allow us to transport the merchandise in the nightliner as well, for example, or to allow us to have the crew transported.
Otherwise you can't make it so loud because I didn't.
Sorry, is it very loud? Is it low?
No,
It's
it was
also
so
because
quiet.
it's loud
Okay,
here
I'm
in
sorry.
the hall, I think.
Did you hear what I was saying? Okay, well, repeat
Bart,
that.
so-
I'm working in the merchandise industry, and I wanted to know, we sometimes struggle to find nightliners or artists that are willing to allow us to transport the merchandise on the nightliner as well, or our crew, and so on. And I think maybe that's a question for Louise, if this would be promoted as well a bit from your side, that this might be an option to like just put another trailer on the nightliner or something to reduce carbon emissions, because we sometimes have to like rent our own truck in order to get our articles on the road as well, and to get our own driver and our own crew and so on. So, okay, that might not be your problem, but I just want to raise that question because I think that's also something to look at, because merchandise is a big part of the industry, and it's a good income, and it's not that we don't want to pay for it, but it's like the carbon emissions are high. If we all have to hire our own crew, hire our own buses, and where this all logistically could maybe be more compact.
Yeah, I mean, if it fits in the nightliner, you can always bring it, but a lot of the bands, they bring also their own equipment in the nightliner, and you cannot bring that much alongside. So, I mean, if it saves cost for the band, to say, oh, you have to arrange your own transport, and if not, we will charge you this, then it will be maybe more attractive for them. But it depends if they can bring it in their nightliner or not. Yeah.
And also, I think if it's international, it has to be on the carnet.
Yeah, the merchandise is different because it goes in and out, and you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's on a carnet. Like it can't be on the carnet of the equipment
No,
truck.
it cannot be on the carnet. No.
Because you have to make carnet then every single day. Depends how much did you sell and how much goes back on the truck.
Yeah,
Because the carnet has to stay the same from the beginning of the tour to the end of the tour, and then you can't change like daily. Depends your amount of merchandising.
Yeah, the merchandise are consumables, so they're completely different by the customs.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Further questions? No? Okay, then thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
We
you all.
will be available here
Thanks
for
very much,
one-to-one talks for sure if you have any questions. And thank you very much for joining the panel.
Thank you too, Brigitte, for hosting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And enjoy the event, the future of festivals.
Thank you so much for the last panel for today. I hope you have a great day after this. And for you, this was also the last talk, but feel free to run around. There are stand parties. That means different stands have their little parties now where you can drink and talk to people, get to know people. I just started checking the app and suggested meeting with people who might be nice to get inspired or work with or whatever. Do this, use it, and get to know each other. Thank you so much, and see you tomorrow, and see you later with a drink in your hands. Bye.
Das war das Panel mit dem Namen
Innovation und Nachhaltigkeit in der Festival Logistik.
Wenn ihr Kritik oder Fragen habt, dann schreibt uns gerne unter www.futureoffestivals.com. Wir sehen uns spätestens am Donnerstag, den 27. und Freitag, den 28. November 2025 in der Station Berlin. Bis dahin.